I'm 30 years of age and I've been diagnosed with ADHD. Now, my beautiful people, how are you all going? I'm so excited to be coming and yarning with you all. I have tried to film this video before, but my camera literally died, and I low-key feel like that was a warning that I was not ready to really get into this and hold this yarn. Now, in saying that, as you can see from the title, this is talking about being neurodivergent. This is talking about being clinically diagnosed with something, and if any of this is a trigger, you feel free to click off this video and check another one of mine. But in saying that, let's get into it. This is like a sit down yarn. This is like get a cup of tea, put the kettle on, or like if you're out and about, put headphones in and listen in the background. So I'm going to be telling you guys a little bit of a timeline, a little bit about my life as a child, a young person, going into university studies, and then now being a postgraduate. Also what my experience has been like in workplaces, and how I've always kind of known that I was hardwired a little bit differently, but I never in a million years, or would have never ever felt comfortable with ADHD, talking about it, let alone being diagnosed with it. Let's get into it. So I guess we're going to call this part. So this is like part 1 or chapter 1 when I was a child. If you guys follow me, you probably know that I'm like always yarning. I'm always here. I'm always there. I'm always happy to talk. I will talk to you about anything. I'll talk underwater. I will pride myself on being a communicator. Yarning and communicating has always been like such an important thing to me, but it also has been really, really tough. It has also been a real issue because I do not know when to stop. And since I literally started kindergarten, I've always gotten comments along the lines of has great potential, is easily distracted, but you know, very engaged, at times can distract the class or distract other students. And I think, guys, these little golden nuggets on the story I think are going to intertwine with a lot of you. All I'm going to say is if anything in this story runs concurrent with your own journey, I encourage you to try to seek getting a diagnosis, because I'm like the typical person that has ADHD. And for me, talking in the classroom was uncontrollable. It was something that I could not stop. It was something that I couldn't prevent. It was something that was just like word vomit, right? I knew I loved my teachers. I knew I loved learning. I was never trying to disrespect them. Even as a young child, I was never trying to like undermine them. I was never like trying to distract students deliberately, or not enjoy the coursework, because sometimes kids, you know, they don't enjoy school, or they don't enjoy learning in these environments, which is very normal, again, from this kind of Western lens. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed school. I enjoyed learning, but I just couldn't control the talking. This really impacted my teachers. This really impacted my learning, my growth in these classes. And I feel like my ADHD was exacerbated in places like maths. I feel like even in writing, which, you know, takes so much concentration. When I was younger, I knew I had issues with handwriting because I have a sister who was a year younger. So my mum always kind of didn't compare us, but she worked with us together, you know, supported us to learn at home, and she knew that I was falling behind my younger sister in regards to writing as well. So I went through my entire schooling, but you guys have to understand, I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth. No. Contrary to what a lot of people think or they believe or they know about me, I grew up in a rural town in New South Wales. I grew up in literally the desert, like the middle of nowhere. That is where I spent my entire childhood. And a lot of people don't know that. And when I was living in this town, when I came to Sydney, my family have always been low socioeconomic, very, very poor. Even when I moved to Sydney, you know, we were living in a women's shelter for a number of years. And these are kind of bits of my story that I have not spoke about online, but these are bits of my story that I want to start talking about. I always struggled in school, but I never had anyone ever talked to me about ADHD. Back when I was younger, ADHD was like never discussed. I think if children were like had really difficult learning journeys, or they were really struggling, they would kind of just have that stick of ADHD. There was no further exploration if it was autism, if there were, you know, dietary things, if there was things at home. They would be labeled ADHD and always assumed that something was wrong with them. It was always, people were always treated like not normal, and that was my experience. We had a few students at my school that were diagnosed with ADHD, and they were just treated like so different. Like they were just treated like they weren't even students. Like they were just often separated from the class, not separated in a way that would support them. They were separated as in like, get in the corner, like you can't come back to the class, or if you are mucking up, like get out. It was never like, let's talk about some coping strategies, let's calm this situation down. If anything, removal from the class was always the end result. And again, I don't want to get into this too much because these are children that I went to school with. You know, these are kids that I grew up with. Or my parents, any ADHD diagnoses, they never got me tested. I never saw a psychologist. I never saw a psychiatrist. I never saw anybody. And again, my teachers never even had the discussion with my parents at all. My school was actually very racist, and I think that was also like a large component why they never had these conversations with my parents, because they simply did not care. My school when I was young, you know, if you were Indigenous, you weren't expected to have anything. You weren't expected to achieve anything or go anywhere. So what's the point of teachers investing in you? What's the point of teachers, you know, talking to your parents? There's no hope for you. So that was very much my experience at school. So having people normalize my behavior, they didn't ever communicate to me that there might be something going on such as ADHD. I always thought that I was the problem. You know, they normalized it like I was just being a naughty kid, like I was just a distracted kid, and I was more than a chatterbox. Like this wasn't just having a yarn at the end of the day in the back of the classroom. I was doing this 24/7, and not once were there any discussions about, hey, this girl might not be coping, you know, this girl might need assistance. We might need to actually talk to her about what is happening for her to just completely keep compulsively talking. So that was very difficult and very hard. And then we moved to Sydney, and it was just as difficult and just as hard. When I came here, this is like a bit of everything in this story. They couldn't believe how poor my maths was, how poor my spelling was. There was huge gaps in my education. So they were doing tests on me and trying to check up on me how they can provide assistance. And then my maths was like at a year 2, and my spelling was like at a year 3 or year 4. So I had to work really hard to get through year 6 and go on to high school. And I think largely that was racism and being neglected in the classroom and my teacher not engaging with me. But I also believe that was largely because of ADHD, and I was not able to concentrate. I was not able to focus. So during these years, it was horrific. Like I went to a low socioeconomic school that was like known for being so rough. It was horrendous. And when I went to that school, I very much didn't run with the crowd. I was still very much by myself. But let me tell you, it was not good. I was very deliberately distracting, but I had a lot going on at home. There was a lot of trauma happening at home. You know, there was a lot leaving my community, moving to this urban environment, leaving my dad in the country. It was just a lot of trauma and being ripped away, you know, from your country and your culture and your family, and then plopped in this urban environment where you feel like you don't belong. It was very tough, but we're going to dedicate that to another video. So high school for the first bit was really shit, always talking, but a lot of behavior as well. Nobody, again, tried to ever discuss or talk about an ADHD diagnosis, not once. And again, during the 2000s, I graduated in 2010, but during those 2000s, you fellas, it was never discussed. I know a few students had ADHD, but it was never discussed. It was never talked about. And again, it was always boys who had ADHD. I never met a girl who had ADHD. So that was my high school experience. I did end up turning things around and actually becoming the school captain of my school school. I worked really hard and graduated high school and did, well, and then went on to university. But even at university, it wasn't so much the talking that had become an issue. It was concentration. So now I didn't have a teacher breathing down my neck. Now I didn't have that structure of being in high school. I was a young woman now, and I had a lot more freedom. I think that's when things became really exacerbated. So going to university was a real red flag for me in regards to my ways of doing things, my ways of carrying myself, my capacity to concentrate. I feel like really early on I realized that something was happening. I was very much struggling. People often lack motivation. People often don't want to do something because they have commitments, or they want their friends, or they want to party, or they want to sleep in. That wasn't my issue. My issue was concentration. I would carve out the whole day. I would get up early to get what needed to be done, but my concentration prevented me from getting into it. My concentration was the thing in the room that prevented me from doing that, and that was very frustrating. It was very, very difficult, and to this day I still struggle with that. I think I am going a lot better because I am aware of it now. I have strategies in place, such as being really organized, and again, arguably through my university experience, I had to be so organized. I really started depending on calendars, and again, that's how very much I still live my life. If I don't get something done in that moment, so like if someone asks me for something, if I have to edit in a video, I will edit the video, I will record the video and edit the video then and there, because I know that in 2 days time or a day's time I'll forget, or I'll just get distracted. I feel like getting diagnosed with ADHD really makes me feel okay, and I've never been one of those people that need confirmation, or I need to be told that it's okay to feel a certain way. I very much generate that within myself. I'm very confident, I'm very proud of who I am, but to have a clinical psychiatrist sit there and tell you, no, you have ADHD, you're like the most typical case, it was really emotional. And I just thought of like my younger self when I was a child, my inner child, and I just literally felt like crying, because I wish somebody went to 6-year-old Alicia and told her it's okay. I wish somebody went and told me that you need some help, and that's okay. But in saying that as well, I'm also really lucky to have gotten the diagnosis at 30. I know a lot of women that kind of go through their entire lives, and not till they get much older, not till when they're at a breaking point of a breakdown or a burnout, where they have and hold these conversations and hold space to allow themselves to explore, what is impacting their lives, be it their mental health. The other big thing that I wanted to talk about is judgment. So I feel like our society is becoming more aware, but when I say our society, we have to look at those statistics. Are those people educated around what ADHD is? Are those people, what age group are they? Do they still hold those old values? Or even if they are younger, do they still kind of hold this prejudice? So I think I am blessed that I am surrounded by people that understand what it is, understand ADHD, but I also have family members that do not understand. I also have family members who probably are never going to understand, and I have to accept that that's okay. You don't need their approval. You don't need them to understand what it's like to be you. You have to legitimize yourself. So that's something that has been really empowering, but also, tough. I'm looking forward to getting treatment. So if that is looking at different types of medication, looking at different ways and different strategies to help me on my journey, because I'm still fairly new. And I think that's something that I'm looking forward to kind of jumping on here and sharing with you all, is what is my experience going to look like? How is my journey going to shape? I am looking at getting into different ways of treating ADHD and different strategies. If it is visual cues, if it is having multiple reminders. I do have a calendar, but I'm looking at maybe buying like a visual one to help me throughout the week, and things that I've been doing to support my own daughter with her experience of having a brain injury and helping her with visual cues as well. I'm looking at, implementing or having things in our home to support the both of us. So that's a big thing that I'm looking forward to this year. And like, guys, since I've gotten the diagnosis, like little things that kind of click together. So I have like a really simple palette in my home. Like you guys can kind of see the background, but I love these natural tones. And before, my previous kind of style was like a more chic and everything was grey. So I had like greys and blacks. So I've always stuck to like a really calming tone. And I think that was to calm myself in my home. I just wanted my home to not be like an overstimulating, bright and just excessively over, I don't know, like this, my eyes and my senses. I'm also always trying to have like a minimalist home as well, like not having different things around me, having statues, like excessive vases or decorations or like things on the wall. I don't have like any photos or just stuff hanging up. I just like things to be really plain, and that has really helped me manage and feel comfortable in my home and not overstimulated and just feeling really safe. So I want to talk about this. How did I create my home, supporting my daughter's neurodivergency, but also my own neurodivergency. Again, I believe to support my ADHD, so I kind of know where everything is. I'm able to focus, I'm able to be practical, but also finally, guys, ways that I haven't been hard on myself. There are going to be days where I drop the ball. There are going to be days where I mess up. There are going to be deadlines that are going to get missed. And the old Alicia would get really frustrated. The old Alicia would criticize myself, but this new Alicia is just opening up and being aware of everything. And I think that's what I'm really, really proud of now. Healing my inner child, not getting upset or angry or disappointed with myself, and importantly, really allowing myself to heal and understand that there's nothing wrong with me. This is just a part of my life. I function a little bit differently, so let's find some strategies. So in saying that, you guys, I'm gonna hop off here. Let me know in the comments down below if you have any questions, if you'd like to see more content on my ADHD journey, maybe talking about how it's impacted me as a mother, how it's impacted me as a partner, and what I am planning on creating this year. Now I know this new aspect of myself and I'm looking forward to exploring it. If you guys have any questions, drop them down below. Be sure to like this video and stay tuned for the next one. Love you guys. Bye.